Every person Jesus raised from the dead. There are 4 graves in this story. 3 of them have names carved near the entrance. A little girl, a young man, a grown man wrapped in linen. And the 4th grave sits outside a city wall, with the stone already rolled away and the burial cloth still lying inside folded neat, as if someone woke up from a nap and made the bed before leaving. Keep that 4th grave in the back of your mind. We are going to walk past it 3 times before we go in. And when we finally go in, you are going to understand why Jesus did everything else in this story the way he did it. Because here is what most people miss. Jesus did not raise the dead at random. He did not stumble into grieving households and feel sorry and fix the moment. There is an order to it. There is a climb. Each time he confronts death, the stakes get higher, the audience gets bigger, and the body has been dead a little longer until the pattern points to one tomb that he had been walking toward his entire life. This is not a story about a magician. This is not a story about a healer with a good week. This is not a story about a kind teacher who happened to do something strange. This is a story about a man who treated death the way you treat a locked door, like an inconvenience that answers to a key he happened to be carrying. So let me show you. 3 times. And then the 4th. Picture a man named Jairus. He is not a nobody. He runs the synagogue in his town, which means when he walks down the street, people lower their voices. He has standing. He has a seat at the front. He has the kind of religious respect that takes a lifetime to build and one bad decision to lose. And he is about to throw it all away in the dirt because his daughter is dying. She is 12 years old, and in that world, 12 was the edge of adulthood, the age a girl was considered ready for her own life to begin. Her life was supposed to be starting. Instead, it is ending, in a back room, with a fever no one can break. So Jairus does the unthinkable for a man of his rank. He finds the traveling teacher that the religious leaders are already whispering about, the one his own colleagues want gone, and he falls down at his feet in front of everyone. Status, gone. Reputation, gone. A synagogue ruler face down in the road, begging a homeless rabbi to come quick. You have to understand what that costs a man like him, and you have to understand that he did not care. When your child is dying, the opinion of the room stops mattering. You would crawl. So would I. Jesus goes with him. And here is where it gets unbearable. On the way, they are stopped. A woman in the crowd reaches out and touches Jesus, and he turns, and he pauses, and he has a whole conversation with her, while Jairus is standing there with his daughter's life draining out by the second. Have you ever been stuck in the slowest possible moment, watching the clock, while the one person who can help you takes their time? That is Jairus. Every second of that delay is a second his daughter does not have. And then the worst sentence a parent can hear arrives by messenger. Your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore. Too late. It's over. Go home. Jesus hears it. And he turns to a man whose whole world just ended in the street, and he says 4 words that make no sense. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. She's dead. The fear already came true. What is left to be afraid of? But Jesus keeps walking toward the house. The professional mourners are already there. That was the custom. You hired criers. The wailing started fast and loud. And Jesus says the girl is only sleeping, and they laugh at him. They laugh because they have seen death, and death does not let go. And who is this man to call it a nap? He puts almost everyone out. Only 5 people go into that room: the mother, the father, and 3 of his closest friends. This first one happens behind a closed door. Remember that. It matters later. And inside, he takes the dead girl by the hand. Now listen to what he says. In the original telling, the words are kept in the old language he actually spoke. Talitha, koum. It means, little girl, get up. But it is gentler than that. It is the phrase a parent uses on an ordinary morning, sitting on the edge of the bed, brushing the hair off a sleeping child's face. Time to get up, sweetheart. He does not shout at death. He does not wrestle it. He wakes her up like it's a school day, and she gets up, and she walks. And he tells them to give her something to eat, because of course she's hungry. She's 12. She was only sleeping. Stay with me, because the second time is louder. This one does not happen behind a closed door. This one happens in the middle of the street, in broad daylight, with 2 crowds about to collide. There is a town called Nain. And coming out of its gate is the worst kind of procession, a funeral. A young man is being carried out, dead, and walking behind the body is his mother. She is a widow. Sit with that word for a second. Her husband is already gone, and in that world, a woman without a husband had exactly one thing standing between her and total ruin: a son. A son meant protection. A son meant food. A son meant a roof and a name and a future. And now they are carrying her son out of the city to bury him. She has lost everything twice. First, her husband. Now, the only person left who connected her to a life worth living. She is not just grieving, she is being erased. Tomorrow, she is a beggar. And here is the detail that breaks me every time. Nobody asked Jesus to do anything. Jairus begged. The widow does not say a word. She is too far gone to even hope. Jesus just sees her. The old account uses a Greek word for what happens inside him, splanchnizomai. We do not have a clean English word for it. It is not pity from a safe distance. It is a churning in the gut, a physical ache. It is the feeling that doubles you over when you watch someone you love suffer, and you would trade places if you could. That is what Jesus feels, looking at a woman he has never met. And he says two words to her that, on the surface, sound almost cruel. Don't weep. Don't weep? At a funeral? For an only son? Hold that thought. Because we are at the midpoint, and I need 10 seconds before the answer. If this is landing, if you are starting to see the pattern climb, do me a favor and subscribe. This channel walks through scripture slowly, the way it was meant to be heard, and there is more coming. And tell me in the comments, have you ever stood in a moment where someone said, "Don't cry," and it made you furious? Hold on to that. Now, let me finish the widow's story. Because Jesus does not say, "Don't weep," and then offer a hug. He walks over and touches the open coffin, which, by their law, made him unclean on the spot, made him the one carrying death now, and the whole procession stops cold. And he says, "Young man, I say to you, arise." And the dead man sits up and starts talking. And the account says Jesus gave him back to his mother, gave him back like handing a found child to a frantic parent in a crowd. Do you feel the climb? The first one was private, behind a door, freshly dead. This one is public, in the street, already on the way to the grave. The audience is bigger. The death is further along. The stone is rolling slightly further every time. And now we come to the third grave. And Jesus does something that, if you did not know the ending, would look like the worst decision he ever made. He gets word that his friend Lazarus is sick. Lazarus, from the town of Bethany, less than 2 miles from Jerusalem. His sisters, Martha and Mary, send for Jesus. The one you love is sick. Come now. And Jesus stays where he is. For 2 more days. On purpose. By the time he arrives, Lazarus has been in the tomb 4 days. You need to understand why the number 4 is in there. In Jewish belief at the time, recorded in their own writings, the soul was thought to hover near the body for 3 days, hoping to return. On the 4th day, when the body began to change and the face was no longer recognizable, the soul departed for good. Day 4 was the line. Day 4 meant there is no coming back. Jesus did not arrive late by accident. He arrived 4 days late on purpose, past the line, past the deadline, past every shred of human hope, so that no one could explain away what was about to happen. Martha meets him on the road first, and what she says is faith and heartbreak in the same breath. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. If you had been here." The accusation underneath the faith. Where were you? Have you ever prayed that exact prayer? Where were you? I called. You waited. He's gone now. And Jesus says to her the line that the whole story has been climbing toward. I am the resurrection and the life. Not I can do a resurrection. Not I know the way to life. I am it. The thing you are grieving the absence of is standing in front of you. Then he goes to the tomb. And here is the part nobody tells you about Jesus. When he sees Mary weeping and the others weeping, the account says he was deeply moved. But the Greek word there is embrymaumai, and it does not mean sad. It is the word for a war horse snorting before battle. It is anger. Jesus is standing at the grave of his friend, and he is furious. Not at the sisters, at death. At the whole rotten arrangement where the people we love get put in the ground and we walk away. And then comes the shortest sentence in the entire Bible, 2 words, Jesus wept. The man who is about to undo this death cries first. He knows he is 60 seconds from fixing it, and he weeps anyway. Because love does not refuse to grieve, just because it knows the ending. He stands at that tomb, fully God, able to reverse it all, and fully human, with tears running down his face. That is the God we are talking about. And then he says, "Take away the stone." And Martha, practical, honest Martha, says the thing everyone is thinking. Lord, by now he stinks. It's been 4 days. By now, he stinks. The most human line in the chapter. And Jesus looks at a sealed tomb on day 4, past the deadline, past hope, and he calls out a single name into the dark, Lazarus, come forth. And a dead man, 4 days dead, walks out of his own grave, still wrapped head to foot in burial cloths, shuffling into the light. And Jesus says, unbind him, let him go. 3 graves, a girl behind a door, a son in the street, a friend 4 days gone, private, then public, then impossible. Each one louder, each one further past the point of return, each one a step on a staircase leading to the 4th grave. Remember the tomb I asked you to hold on to? The empty one, outside the city wall, with the stone already rolled back and the cloths folded inside. That one is his, because every grave before this had something in common. There was always someone outside the tomb, someone to feel compassion, someone to be angry at death, someone to call the name. Jairus had Jesus. The widow had Jesus. Lazarus had Jesus. But when Jesus himself went into the ground on a Friday, wrapped in his own linen, there was no one left outside to call him out. No teacher standing at the entrance. No voice to say, arise. The one who woke the others was now the one in the dark. And on the 3rd morning, the women come to the tomb, expecting to anoint a body. And Peter and John run, and John gets there first. And Peter goes in, and they see the linen cloths lying there, and the cloth that had been over his face, folded up by itself, in a place by itself. Folded, set aside. The way you leave a bed when you are not coming back to sleep. No one called his name. He answered himself, let me bring this all the way home. Every one of us has stood somewhere, a hospital room, a graveside, a phone pressed to our ear at 3 a.m, and said a name out loud to someone who could not answer. You know that silence. The silence after the name. It is the loneliest sound there is. The entire point of these 3 graves is to tell you that the silence is not the end of the sentence. There was a voice that little girl heard while she was sleeping. There was a voice that reached a young man on his way to the dirt. There was a voice that went 4 days deep into a sealed tomb and pulled a man back into the morning. And that same voice walked out of its own grave under its own power, so that the name you whispered into the silence is not the last word. So here are the 3 things to carry out of this. First, the pattern was never random. Jesus raised the dead in a deliberate climb, private, public, impossible, proving step by step that death answered to his voice, so that his own empty tomb would not be a shock, but the answer to a question he had been asking all along. Second, he weeps before he works. He stood at the grave of someone he loved and cried, even knowing the ending. So whatever silence you are standing in right now, he does not stand at a distance from it. He has tears for it. He is moved in the gut by it. And third, this is the one I want you to feel. Every grave in this story had someone on the outside calling a name in. Every grave except one, his. He went into the dark with no one left to call him, and he came out anyway, so that there is now a voice on the other side of every grave you will ever stand beside, including your own. So let me ask you, and tell me in the comments, which of these 3, the little girl, the widow's son, or the friend 4 days gone, hit you the hardest, and why? I read every one. There are 4 graves in this story. 3 of them gave their dead back when a voice called from outside. The 4th one opened from the inside,